Hey guys, welcome back here to the Fishing Teacher, and much appreciated you guys checking the video out today and hanging out with me for a little bit. And guys, today we're going to be talking about the shad kill that usually happens about this time of year, February, sometimes early into March. This is a situation where when the water gets cold in the wintertime, there's a big shad die-off because shad are pretty lightweight. They're not very sturdy or tough fish, and they die pretty easily in really cold water. And one of the reasons I wanted to do this video, I was just down at Table Rock Lake yesterday and I started noticing that the shad kill was beginning. So I want to explain to you guys exactly what happens here and how it can make fishing really tough, and maybe some tips and advice on how to catch some bass during the shad kill. So we'll get into that today. Also, guys, started a couple quick things here. Just wanted to thank everybody for hitting that subscribe button here to the Fishing Teacher. Really appreciate that. And also, guys, quick reminder that we're planning on doing our first live stream for all my YouTube channels coming up at 6:30 Central Standard Time this coming Thursday, February 12th. If you're interested in becoming part of that live stream that we're going to be doing every week, it's going to be a weekly thing. It's a private live stream for channel members and my Patreon members. So if you want to be part of that, just go to my homepage on any of my YouTube channels, hit the join button for information on the memberships, or you can go into the description of the videos and join up the Patreon program. So really appreciate that. Okay, guys, this is something that's happened forever, man. It's like ever since I've been fishing, here in the Ozarks this time of year, about, when you get that really bad cold snap like we had here in my part of the country a couple weeks ago, you get a big shad die-off. And sometimes it's massive, guys. I've seen times like I was at Lake of the Ozarks last year, and this was March, and we had one of those really cold Arctic blasts come in, and there was freaking dead shad everywhere. There were dead shad floating on the bank. There were dead shad, struggling and on their way out, sinking. They were floating on the surface. They were just everywhere, and it was tough to get a bite. And that's one of the things that you're going to notice about pulling into the car wash here. That's one of the things you're going to notice about shad kills. It's like any time that you have a shad kill, and almost about any level. I mean, it's worse, obviously, the worse the shad kill, the worse it is. But it makes fishing very difficult. I mean, it makes the fish very hard to catch. They've got so much easy food that they just don't need to feed. I mean, when you think about it, if you've got hundreds or thousands of shad that are dying throughout the lake, they're barely moving. It doesn't take anything for bass to get completely stuffed full of shad without even putting out any energy or work. So it is not a good thing when you see shad dying. I'm telling you, it can make it really tough. And when you see this, once you see shad dying in a lake, it's usually going to be something that lasts for 2 or 3 weeks. It's nothing that goes away real quick. Okay, so what can you do as far as catching them when the shad dies off? Here's been my experience with it overall. First of all, there's 2 different scenarios that you want to look for. It's going to be tough to catch fish, especially if you fish moving lures. Crankbaits, jerkbaits, spinnerbaits, anything like that, it's going to be hard to get a bite on. There's 2 techniques, or actually probably 3. There's 3 techniques I want to talk about that you really need to go to once the shad start dying. That seems to work pretty good. Now, the first one is a more standardized approach for water that's, cleaner or a little bit clean. And one thing that I have found that you can do to catch some fish during a shad school is to fish a small swim bait, like a 3 to 3.5 inch, like a little rib swim bait, like either the Kitech or that little Megabass Spark Shad. Fish it out there, cast it out like a main lake and secondary points or something, let it go to the bottom, and just slowly crawl it along the bottom, just off of the bottom. Now, I have done pretty good during the shad kill like that. The other 2 things revolve around looking for more off-colored water and fishing slow baits. And when I'm talking about fishing slow baits, I'm talking about fishing usually either a full-size jig or some type of a finesse jig in a little bit more off-colored water. Usually what happens is the water is cold when these shad die. And if you're going to catch shallow water fish when the water's a little colder, like in the 40s, you've got to have water that's a little bit off-colored. So I want to look into that areas where have water visibility between like 1 to 2 foot. And if I can find that, I know I'm going to have a population of fish. They may be a little bit, little less aggressive, and there may not be as many of them up there, but they're more catchable. And I can take that jig, either the full size or the finesse jig, and pitch it and flip it around whatever shallow cover that I have. Docks, lay down trees, rocks in the water. seems to be a pretty consistent way to catch them when those shad are dying off. But if you try to catch fish suspended, like bass that are traditionally caught without, like Alabama rigs and jerk baits and swim baits through the mid part of the water column, you're going to have a tough time catching fish. And you're also going to have a tough time catching fish if you fish the cleaner water parts of the lake. I mean, overall, the clearer the water is, it's like the more that I see shad dying. And it's like it's hard to get bit in those clear water areas, except, you know, the swim bait on the bottom deal, what I was telling you about. But here's my advice, you know, and a lot of you guys don't have to mess with it. If you're down in the southern tier states, you know, it's not even a big deal. But if you're in my part of the country or any part of the country where the water gets down into the low 40s, it usually takes water temperature in the low 40s before these shad start dying off big time. Try to find you a little bit more off-colored water, put on a jig or something like that, and go shallow. And it's usually the best way to catch them until, you know, the shad completely sink to the bottom and the catfish and stuff start eating them. So anyway, I hope it helps out, guys. We'll talk later.